For joining us tonight. My name is Kelly Brown and I manage the Business Tasmania service in the Department of State Growth. Tonight's event is Ask the Expert Social Media Unpacked. So I'll be providing you with a very short presentation on the support you can access through Business Tasmania, and then I'll be handing it over to Laura from King Thing Marketing, and she will be supported by the Department of State Growth.
Well, thank you everyone for coming along tonight. What I thought would be easiest to start with was with all the questions that were submitted as part of your registration. I've gone through and popped them into slides what the question was, and then we'll talk through the answers. But as Kelly mentioned, if you do have a question related around what it is that I'm talking about, you can ask that throughout the presentation through the different ways that she mentioned earlier, or we also have allowed some time at the end just for questions that might be anything to do with social media that may not have been covered in tonight's presentation. So before we begin, I'd like to honour the Tasmanian Aboriginal community, their elders past and present, and thank them for caring for the place we all call home. So we'll dive straight on into the questions. So the very first question, and I think this is one that often gets asked a lot, is how often should I post on social media? So the way that I like to think about it when I get asked this question is that sometimes it's a little bit like how long is a piece of string? It can be dependent on a number of factors, and this can be things such as how many people you have within your business that might be able to assist you with social media, how much time do you have to spend on actually putting together your social media content, what does the money look like around it, all of those different resources that come into play. So when we think about that, it's a good idea to then be like, well, what's actually realistic for me and my business? And so a lot of the time it's not posting every day, and that is completely fine. The biggest thing is to make sure that you are consistent. So consistency is better than volume. So if you can set a reasonable target as a base and stick to that every week, you're going to find that that does far better things for you than actually just posting every day. So this might be 2-3 times a week, whatever it looks like for you and your business. And that is what you then stick to as a target base. You might then decide some weeks you may have 5 or 6 posts, and then other weeks you might cut back to that 3, but it's just a guide to kind of keep that consistency on your pages. The other thing that I love to think about when I get asked this question is around quality over quantity. So we know that the algorithm does love that activity on our feeds, but it also prefers engagement. So if we have quality pieces of content going out there where people can interact with those pieces of content, they're going to prefer that than you just putting up a post for the sake of posting and not having any engagement on that post. Alongside this, we know that when people see posts from businesses, particularly small businesses, they start to think, oh, they're posting too much. I'm feeling a little bit fatigued by them. And sometimes this can lead to them actually unfollowing our pages. So we want to make sure that we're not overwhelming our audience, and we're also providing them different pieces of content so that they're learning something or they're getting some type of value add rather than just, again, posting for the sake of posting. And so that's why it's particularly important when we do have the number of posts that we want to do, that we also mix up that content. So if you're going to post 3 times on the feed per week, you might then decide that on stories, we're going to post every second day, but we're going to make sure all of that content is different so they're not seeing the same thing on repeat all the time. Just as a general guide though, so depending again on who your target audience is and the channels that you're utilizing, this is kind of a general guide in which we typically would work to when it comes to how many times we would post. So for the Instagram feed, we'd look at 3 to 4 times per week. Our Instagram stories, either daily or every second day if possible. Facebook, 3 to 4 times per week. TikTok, 3 to 4 times per week, and LinkedIn, 2 to 3 times per week. Again, these are just a base guide and it will be different for every business, but it's just to get you a bit of an understanding as to what, I guess, the research shows us what we could be doing if we have the right resources and time available to us. So some things that you can do to help make sure that you stick to that consistency of posting is to create a content calendar so you're not scrambling at the last minute on what to post. Again, mixing up that content type, making sure we're using reels, photos, stories, carousel posts. Use scheduling tools like the Meta Business Suite to schedule your posts for Facebook and Instagram, or if you would rather have it all in the one platform, if you're utilizing LinkedIn and Pinterest, you could also use third-party apps such as Later or Buffer. And then focus on engagement, not just publishing. So it's really important that when we do post on these channels, we also allow time to reply to comments, direct messages and stories where people are responding to them and being interactive with our audience. Because if we can focus on that engagement and responding to people, that's a big part of that quality piece over quantity piece when it comes to actually creating our content, because we want people to actually engage with it and we want to engage back with them and create that conversation. So the next question that was asked was, can you explain how LinkedIn and Instagram work? So Instagram is a highly visual platform designed for brand storytelling, lifestyle content, and community building. It's designed so that we can share photos, videos, and in particular reels, which are short bursts of videos, which is a way for them to be able to compete against TikTok. And the strong focus is on making sure that we're tapping into different trends and engagement opportunities with our customers online. On Instagram, we use things such as hashtags, locations, and audio to help connect and reach new users. So they're different tools that are available through Instagram that allow us to reach new people who may not follow our pages. And it is very heavily influenced by the algorithm. So content is pushed out based on engagement. So when people like, share, save, comment, they watch. The more people that do that, the more that the algorithm's going to notice and they're going to push it out to more people to see that piece of content. So it's more about creating content that the algorithm wants to see and that your customers want to see, because then they're actually engaging with it, which is going to create that further reach. In terms of the audience, it's normally a platform where we can be a little bit more casual and broad. It normally is where we will reach people that are our customers who maybe want to purchase or in our product or our service, some influencers that may be able to assist us with our product or service, different brands, creatives, and in particular, it does have a strong emphasis around the users from around 18 to 35, 40, but we are starting to see shifts in that market between that 40 to 65 age bracket as well. It's really great for visual products, lifestyle brands, small businesses, and culture-led content. I think the key to success when it comes to Instagram is, again, that consistency. So having really strong visuals, whether that be through reels or photos itself. Have short captions that are punchy over long ones, and build a community. So we want to make sure we're responding to those direct messages, those stories, and those comments. And Instagram is a great way for us to be able to do that. It's also a way for us to be able to then go and comment on other businesses and really engage with the local community and show that we're supporting one another. In comparison, LinkedIn is more of a professional platform for networking. It's a space where you would then share thought leadership ideas, industry news, and business development. So it's really focused on more that business to business market, and it more works around content being pushed based on the relevance to your network. So depending on who you follow, whether that be business pages or individuals, it's then going to understand what sort of industries that you typically like to engage with, and it's going to serve you that sort of information based on those networks. So again, it's going to notice who you're liking, who you're sharing and commenting with, and then that's the type of content that it's going to prioritize for you. Profiles are nearly like a digital resume, and company pages showcase your services, your updates, and your culture. So they are particularly important, not only from that business to business market, but also from a recruitment perspective, because it may be a platform that we use to attract candidates to our business. The key to success on this platform is to offer value. So whether it be through sharing insights, opinions, or behind the scenes from a business perspective, it's about being authentic and informative for somebody within your industry. And it's about commenting on others' posts to stay visible in your network and show that you are an industry thought leader. So the next question was, what should be included in a content calendar? So when it comes to content calendars, the key to any successful one is to make sure that we've really focused on what are those content pillars that we want to base our content around. So typically these are 3 to 5 key themes or topics that you consistently post about. So these are the ones that help you stay focused. They save you time because you're not worried about what do I need to post about. You can refer back to these pillars and the types of posts that you would want to do to represent those pillars, and then you can create content much faster and think of new ways to be able to talk to your audience. It also helps us build a recognizable brand story because we're being consistent in terms of the themes and the topics in which we're talking about. So when it comes to choosing our content pillars, there's a couple of things that I like to consider. And those include things such as, what does my audience care about? So what are they curious about? What are they struggling with? Or what are they inspired by? And potentially tapping into that might be around, what are some things that we can, I guess, relate to, that we know our audience cares about, and how can we make sure that relates back to our product or service that we're offering? And then, what do you want to be known for? Is it your expertise? Is it your purpose as a business? Or is it what your actual product category is? What helps move your business forward? So is it sales? Is it signups, awareness, or creating value? And what feels authentic to share? To me, this is the most important one to ask yourself when you're thinking about choosing your content pillars, because you want to make sure that it feels authentic to you and your story, and you need to be comfortable with what you're sharing. So think about your story, your team's stories, your experiences, or your beliefs, and make sure that you really draw upon those when you're actually designing your content pillars and the content that you're creating. Just to help put this into context a little bit further, what I've done is I've provided some examples over the next couple of slides of some core different content pillars that a majority of businesses would look at utilizing as part of their content calendar. So the first one is education. So the purpose is to position your brand as a helpful expert and build trust with your audience. So the idea is to share things such as how-tos and tutorials, quick tips and hacks, behind the scenes processes, for example, how a product is made, might be myth busting or FAQs, and then industry insights or stats. So the reason that this type of content works is that people love to save, share, and come back to educational style content. And we know that when people like, share, save, that actually helps our engagement, which then helps the algorithm feed out our content to more people. So that really helps drive that long-term engagement and builds that credibility as a business, because they can start to see that we're really known for providing you the tips on this, or we're the experts in this space. So education can be a really popular content pillar for most businesses. The next example content pillar is entertainment. So the purpose around entertainment is to build an emotional connection and relatability with your audience. So some things you could share when your content pillar is entertainment could be things such as trending audio or reel format. So if you've started to know there's a particular trend as a video reel, and you can think about, well, our business could tap into that. Let's recreate that. That's a way for us to entertain our audience and tap into what's already trending online. Thinking about those expectation versus reality moments, humor or mishaps that happen within a business, and relatable or nostalgic content that people can look back and say, oh, I remember when that happened, or I can remember when that looked like that. And that again creates that engagement, because people can start to be like, oh, I remember when that looked like that. So for example, if it was a business that's been around for 50 years, maybe you share a flashback photo to what it looked like 20, 30 years ago, and then people might start to comment and be like, oh, I remember this, or did you know when that happened, there was this particular part of the business. And so it creates some really authentic and genuine content that you can actually have a conversation with those people who are engaging with the post. The reason that entertainment works is that it definitely boosts your reach. So people tag friends, they share the posts, and it really does build that connection through laughter and familiarity. And that's a really, I guess, important theme, particularly here in Australia, because we know that humour and that entertainment is a big part of our everyday culture. So it's a way for us to tap into that, but in a way that's authentic to our business. Another example content pillar may be promotional. So the idea around this is to drive conversions, sales, signups, or event bookings. And so this might be where you share things such as product highlights and benefits, special offers or limited time sales, new arrivals or restocks, and then customer testimonials or reviews. And the reason that it works is people need to be told clearly what you sell and how it helps them. So it is a good idea to make sure that we do have some posts within our actual feed that tell people what it is that we're actually offering to them as a business. Now, I do not suggest that this should be your core content pillar. In fact, this should probably make up 1 in every 5 or 1 in every 7 posts that you do, because we want to make sure that people aren't feeling like it's just a hard sell all the time. We want to be able to have some other things within the mix that is more behind the scenes of the business and building that connection with them and making them feel like they're having a conversation with you rather than just being sold things. And then the last example content pillar is brand story. So the purpose behind this content pillar is to deepen connection and authenticity and foster community. So the things that we want to share around this is more around our story or our mission, staff birthdays or team highlights. These do really well in terms of developing that overarching story and creating a conversation around the people within our business. If there's any community events or milestones that we want to recognise, any personal thoughts or learnings around our business, and then user-generated content or customer shout-outs. So the reason that this particular content pillar works is that people connect with people. And so personal content builds loyalty, trust, and emotional connection with your brand. And so once we've thought about what we actually want those content pillars to be, we'll select those 3 to 5 different content pillars. And then underneath each of those, we'll actually display the ways in which we could actually represent that as a post. So this is just an example of a content plan and what it might look like when you see those pillars laid out. So you'll see up the top, we've got the name of what that pillar section is, and then we'll describe what the goal is around that particular pillar, and then some ways in which we might actually display that through our posts on our social media channel. Are there any questions so far, Kelly?
No, not so far, but feel free to ask any questions via the Q&A or raise your virtual hand.
Perfect, thank you. So the next question that came through was, what can you do to ensure you are reaching your target audience on social media? So when we talk about reaching our target audience, it's really important that we firstly understand exactly who it is that we're talking to. So when we understand our target audience, we then are able to work out what platforms we should be on and the type of content that they want to see. So if you haven't already, it is a really good idea to map out what that profile looks like, have a think about what they care about and what they might be looking at when they scroll online, but really have a clear idea about who it is that you're talking to and what they might look like, or what they might like in terms of themes. Alongside that, when you have picked out that profile, it's going to become clearer to you around what platforms they are engaging on and therefore what platforms you should be on as a business. And we want to make sure we prioritize those platforms first so that they're the ones that we're spending our time on and investing into those rather than trying to be on everything all at once. A great thing that you can do if you want to make sure that the content aligns with your target audience is to actually ask them, what do they want to see? You could say it in a poll on your stories or in a question box and say, what would you like to see more of? What would you like to see less of? That way you're actually asking the source themselves what it is that they actually want to engage with on your page. Something else that we like to do is looking at other profiles that might have a similar target audience to us. So it could be a competitor or somebody else who you know has a very similar niche audience, and look at what they're posting and what their audience is engaging with. And maybe is there some types of content there that we could potentially do as our business because we know that already resonates with our audience. It's also important to consider things such as targeted hashtags. So particularly those niche ones when we're trying to reach some of our niche target audience. And then if we're wanting to reach that broader audience, it's a good idea to have some of those broader ones. So when we talk about hashtags, it is always a good idea to have a good mix of niche and broader hashtags as part of our posting strategy on Instagram in particular. And then when we talk about reaching our audience, again, it is so important that we engage with them directly. Respond to their comments and their messages, comment on other accounts your audience follow, like, and interact with potential customers. So people who are part of your community, it's nice for them to see that the business sees them. And so if we like their post or comment on their posts, they can really appreciate that, and their friends can see that who might also be similar target audiences. And that can really help build that loyal following that you may be after with that target audience. Another way in which we can, I guess, build that loyalty too is to also share their content. So if they've done a post on stories and tagged you as a business, it can be a nice idea to reshare it, particularly if you have a product or a service that you offer, where then if they reshare it, you can see what they're doing with that product, or if they've been in and they've had that service and they've taken a photo to say, I went here, it was an amazing experience. They like that as the user, because then they feel like they've been seen by a business that they really value. That's why they've posted about it in the first place. But it can also be seen as social proof to the other people that are looking in, to see that other people that they might know or might look similar to them are actually engaging with that business by either buying that product or engaging in that service. And then when it comes to collaboration, make sure you're collaborating with creators your audience really trusts. So try and pick people that you know your audience already engages with, and try and use them as your influencers, because that's going to really help build that credibility and that trust going forward. So how can I optimize my profile? So this question was really in relation to Instagram itself. So the first thing is to make sure that your username and handle is easy to find and consistent across platforms. So you want to make sure if you're using your business name on Facebook, you have the same business name on Instagram, so it's easy for people to find you. In the same light, it's also important then to utilize the same profile photo, whether that be a logo or a clear professional photo, across your Facebook and your Instagram profile. Again, that just reinforces your brand and makes people realize that they're in the same place, or following the same particular business page. In our bios on Instagram, we want to be clear and concise. We want to include what you do, your unique selling proposition, and a call to action. And where appropriate, try and use relevant keywords. And this is really going to help your search results. So if you were a baking business, you might utilize things such as I bake cakes and cookies in Launceston, Tasmania, so that people who then might search cake baker Launceston, your profile will turn up because it has found those relevant keywords in your actual bio of what they're searching. The other thing is to make sure that you include a link. So use a single link, whether that's to your website or a link aggregator like Linktree, and just making sure that then you can say to people in those posts or in those messages, here's the link, or go to our link in bio to see that, and just making sure that we update that, whatever that link looks like, regularly when we do have different campaigns, so that it aligns with what we're talking about in our messaging on our posts. One I often get asked is, why do I need a meta business portfolio? So I was very excited when I saw this question come in, because it is quite a complex thing. But the best way to describe the Meta Business Portfolio, and yes, it is different to the Meta Business Suite. So the Meta Business Suite is where we go to do our posts for Facebook and Instagram and to schedule them. The Meta Business Portfolio is actually the structure that holds all of our, I guess, pages together. So it's where all of our meta-related tools and properties a business uses to advertise and grow on Facebook and Instagram comes together. So it actually lives inside the Meta Business Suite, and is more like your settings tool for your business. Now, the reason that it is so important to have this set up is that it actually keeps your business assets all together for Facebook and Instagram. So we can make sure in our portfolio, we link our Facebook, our Instagram, our ad account for that particular business. If you've got a website pixel, if you've got a catalog that might link to a shop on your Facebook or Instagram, if you've got an event page, it all brings it in together into this one space. And then within that one space, you can actually make sure that you add team members through there. You give them access to the different things that they might need access to. So for example, you may have an admin person within your business who doesn't need access to post on your pages, but maybe they need to be able to log in and actually access the invoices for your actual account when they're doing their reconciling. And so if they then just need access to that, you can just make sure they've got access to the billing and invoices within your Meta account so that they don't have to have everything added to them, which can be quite overwhelming for some team members. It also makes it easier to change team members when people leave the business, but also make sure that they don't have full admin control so that they can't then take over your page and you've got more of that authority of your own business page. It's also important that if you're working with an agency that you have a Meta profile, a business profile set up so that you can actually add that agency as a partner to your business so that they then only have that partner access and they can't actually have any control of changing anything on your page, such as your page name, and do anything that they're not meant to do. Not that we would suggest that they would be, but it's just a way to safeguard ourselves as a business. It is really important if you do have one of these set up that you try and separate out your businesses. So if you have more than one business, you can actually create different portfolios for each business. And this can be really important, particularly if you ever decide to sell the business going forward, so that you can then make sure you hand over all of the correct assets. It's also important when we do sell a business that we do hand over that Meta portfolio. Otherwise, going forward, it is going to make it really difficult for people to be able to run ads. So the next question was, what is the difference between Reels, posts, and stories on Instagram, and how do they impact engagement? So Instagram posts, so this is where we have photos or videos that actually appear on our profile grid. So they're the ones that are permanent unless we actually delete or archive them. And this is where you'll have your photo or your video, and then you would have your captions, hashtags, and tagging in different businesses or adding them as collaborators. So the idea around Instagram posts is that they're really good for long-term visibility. So if people who are new to our business decide to go and look up our Instagram profiles, it'll give them a general sense of who we are as a business and what we have to offer them. It's built around likes, comments, shares, and saves to really help that algorithm push your content into the followers' feeds, and then eventually that explore tab, which we know people spend time on. So the idea around this is to really build that, I guess, base of our profile. So if somebody comes in and has a look for that first time, they really get a sense of who our business is. Instagram Reels will then also turn up within that feed, but you can actually choose for them not to as well. And so you might then decide just to actually have them on the Reels tab on your Instagram profile. So typically Reels are a short vertical video, no more than 90 seconds, and they often have music, text, and transitions. So they actually, as I say, live on that dedicated Reels tab, but also can appear in our normal feeds. And then they actually all appear in our Explore and non-followers feed. So it's our way of making sure we can reach new people who may not know who we are. So the reason that this is important from an engagement perspective is that Reels actually have the highest reach potential, especially to new audiences. So if we're wanting to reach new people who are our target audiences, Reels are a great way to do that because, as I said, they can go into that Explore and the non-followers feeds, and so that they can actually learn what our business has to offer or what we stand for. We know Instagram heavily promote Reels, and that's because they want to compete against TikTok. They know that video content is the way that they see the future going forward. So it is important that we do start to utilize them so that we can show Instagram that we know that they prioritize these and we know that these are an important part of our strategy. And as I mentioned before, they're really great for that growth and discovery because it's a good way for us to be able to reach people who may not already follow our pages and actually know what we have to offer. And then Instagram stories. So these are the ones that appear when you're on your home page of your Instagram app. You'll have the little circles at the top of the feed. And so this is temporary content that's only visible for 24 hours. So after that 24 hours is up from the time that you posted it, that will actually disappear. And so it's really important for that really time critical content, but it's also really great for that in the now content. We can also do some more interactive things through it. So this is where we would ask those polls, quizzes. We might have links out to things on our website, countdowns to events, and all these other different types of interactive features that are available through the stories. Now, the reason that it is important to start utilizing stories if you're not is because Instagram users actually spend a lot of time on stories. In fact, 80% of people who are on Instagram actually spend more time in stories than they do the normal news feed. So it is important that we are making sure that we are posting on stories so that people can actually see our content and what it is that we have to offer as a business. The beauty of Instagram stories, though, is that it doesn't have to be as polished. It can be a bit more raw and authentic. And you can literally just start talking to camera or show them what it is that's happening in your day-to-day, because people really resonate and really love that behind-the-scenes day-to-day content. Now, we are starting to see more of that through our Instagram reels that we're talking about before and even our posts, but it is the place where that kind of trend started to really see that raw and authentic content. The reason from an engagement perspective this works quite well is that through those interactive features, we can actually drive some more conversations with our customers, and we can learn some things that is really valuable for us as a business. Because we know people are spending time on those particular part of the platform, we can stay top of mind. They can say, oh, I saw that story, or I saw what they were up to behind the scenes. Oh, that's really good. Like it just puts it in the back of the mind that they've seen that business. And again, it's just really great for building that community and relationships with our existing followers. So people who don't follow our page won't see our stories. So it's a way to kind of use as a reward or a VIP to actually acknowledge our existing followers and thank them for following us and bringing them on a special part of our journey that we might not put on a normal feed for everybody to see. So the next question was of a similar nature, but it was, should I post more reels or direct posts? So reels are really great for growth and discovery, as I mentioned just before. So if you're wanting to reach new people and get them to learn about what your business has to offer, reels are definitely the way to go. They are, as I said before, Instagram's most push format, and it is the only way that Instagram really wants people to get discovered. So it is a really good idea if you want that growth and discovery mode to actually implement reels. Even small accounts, they can go viral or attract new followers through really clever, relatable reels. So it is a good idea to just think about, well, what is trending right now? What can we tap into? What do we know that our audience is engaging with? And how can we recreate reels that offer that? In comparison, direct posts are great for trust, education, and sales. So they're really good for product or service details. So if you want to break down a little bit more information about it, or do a carousel post that kind of shows the different elements of that product or service, it's a good way to be able to do it. Testimonials, any stylized photos that kind of make you feel nearly like it's aesthetically pleasing and you wish that you were able to have that lifestyle, and really, I guess, make that people feel that emotional connection from a lifestyle perspective. And then explainers. So if you're doing any type of educational content, some direct posts are really good for that, because we can use carousels to actually explain different pieces of that content. The benefit in terms of direct posts is that people tend to save them, they share them, which can tell Instagram that it's valuable content. So we know that people can engage with direct posts still. So this is really good for brand credibility. So people can see these posts as a really trusting resource that they know that people are engaging with or saving because they want to come back to it and read that types of content. So that's why it's really a good idea to make sure that we have a mixture of these types of posts in our feed. So the ideal thing to aim for is 60% reels, so we can reach new people, but then 30% grid posts to really help build that trust and show who you are as a business. And then 10% carousels to educate or share that information. So that can be really important to consider when you are developing those content planners that we spoke about before. So what is the best way to create reels? So just some tips to help create reels is to keep them simple, authentic, and aligned to your business and audience's interests. One thing that I always say to people all the time is just plan your reel, but don't overthink it. The more time that you actually spend thinking about it and developing it, it's always the ones that you do that with that they never do as well, where the ones where you do it on the cusp, you probably spend less than 10, 15 minutes putting it together and they do exceptionally well. So plan it, but just don't overthink it. Make sure that you think about what's the purpose of this reel. So are you trying to educate, entertain, or inspire? And then really picking that single idea. So for example, is it going to be a product demonstration? Is it behind the scenes? Is it a how-to? Is it a tip, or is it a transformation? And keep it short. So 7 to 15 seconds is the sweet spot for attention spans when it comes to watching reels. In terms of actually shooting the content for Reels, I would recommend making sure that you shoot it vertically on your phone so that it actually displays in the correct format that we know people watch Reels with. Where possible, make sure that you can utilize some natural lighting. If you can, try and get a tripod or a steady surface to put your phone against when you are filming the content, just so that it doesn't feel really jumpy when people are watching it. While we know people like that more raw and authentic content, they still want it to be something that's easy to watch and doesn't feel too jumpy. Alongside that, also consider, are there some different angles in which you could shoot that content? So maybe you could do some zoomed in, maybe some wide focus, maybe some super close up, just so that you can provide some different perspectives. And when you're editing it together, it can kind of make it feel like it's all part of the same one, but it just provides some different angles for people to view that content with. And I always suggest just using your phone's camera, and then you can edit later on that actual device itself. In terms of editing reels, so you can edit in Instagram itself, or you can actually use other apps such as CapCut, InShot, Canva, or Splice. The benefit of either Instagram or even a tool such as CapCut is you can upload all of the different clips that you've taken. And so particularly all those ones with the different zooms and the close-ups and things like that, you can actually then trim the clips and then rearrange them into the order in which you want to be able to tell that story through that reel. It also allows you to be able to cut out any pauses, hesitation, or dead time so that it keeps it really sharp and snappy. If you are adding transitions because you're wanting to switch scenes, just make sure they're really quick and they don't really overpower the video itself. And then we can also use these apps to add text overlay, captions and subtitles, and really make sure that there's that hook in the first 3 seconds that we know people are watching so that they continue to watch it. Once you've edited your reel, whether that be Instagram or through CapCut, make sure that we then add some trending audio or sounds so that we know that it can be found by more people who might be exploring or discovering through those sounds. And then most importantly, when we are editing, make sure that we're exporting it in the 9:16 ratio, which I've put the pixels on the screen in today's presentation as well, because this is the way that most people will actually view it, because we know people who are on Instagram are actually on their mobile devices. So it just ensures that they're able to see that content in the format that they actually prefer it. The next question was, how can I use social media to help create an email database? So this was a really great question. And there's just a couple of things to think about when you think about how you can, there's just a couple of things to think about when you're considering, I guess, growing that email database through your social media. So the very first is to actually think about what is it that you're wanting them to, I guess, be able to get out of giving you their email address. So people need a reason to actually give over their email address. They can't just give it out for free. So maybe consider, is there a lead magnet that you could offer them? So could this be a discount code, for example, 10% off your first order? Is it a freebie like a guide, a recipe, style tip, printable checklist? Will you provide them early access to sales or new collections? Is it a giveaway? Or is it something like they get VIP only content, so exclusive behind the scenes, events or email only offers? So really have a think about what is that lead magnet that we can use to try and encourage people to actually give us their email address. And not only will this help you when you're asking for building that email database through your social media, but it'll also help on your website when you're asking them to sign up when they're on your actual site. The next thing is to make sure that it's super easy for people to sign up. If you make the process hard, people will quit out of it and they won't actually complete the action that you're asking them to take. So the way that we can make it easier for people to sign up is to make sure that we're adding that link to our bio. So particularly on Instagram, we know links don't work in our regular posts. If it was going on stories, we could add the link itself so people could click on it and go straight through. But if it is going on our actual posts, we want to make sure that we're saying go to our link in bio, or we're using a tool such as ManyChat where they then ask it to comment a certain keyword that then triggers an automation to provide them that link to actually sign up to your database. So the idea is you could also then even create a reel that actually shows what your offer is and then how easy it is to sign up using your phone on the tips that you provide. So it's a way to, I guess, make it really easy to show people that it's a super simple process and this is how you can actually do it. So then when it comes to actually promoting it, you've kind of got the basis already set up there. So now in your posts, stories and captions, we really want to encourage that action. So make sure we're using language such as want the first look, join our email list today, we're sharing a special surprise in this week's newsletter, have you subscribed yet? Hit the link in bio and join our crew, the kind that gets early say or access and secret specials. So really kind of make them feel like that if they don't take action and sign up to this email list, they're missing out on something. Another thing you can do to encourage people to sign up to your database is to run a giveaway. So maybe you have a prize for your business or you've collaborated with some other businesses to promote a really good package that might actually allow for people to sign up. Or if you have collaborated with those other businesses who might also have similar target audiences, to kind of tap into some of those audiences that they have and actually shift them across to your business because you know that they have a similar interest and that your service or product actually would suit those people. And so then we would actually promote that across all of our platforms and try and encourage as many signups as possible so that they can then win that prize. And then alongside that, you might also then decide that you might do a social media ad. So the idea around that ad is to actually get people to sign up to that email database. And so you could also try this as a lead generation campaign rather than just a traffic campaign that goes through to your website. So you can offer that freebie or that discount in exchange for an email, but then you can either send people to a landing page on your website that has the easy sign up form, or you can actually use Meta's built-in lead ad form where it asks them to leave their name and their email address, and then you download that and upload that to your email marketing database at a later date. The next question was, is it worth paying for advertising on social media platforms? So the reason that advertising on social media is a really good thing is because you can actually choose who it is that you want to target. So we can be really specific about what the location is, the age, the gender, the interests, behaviors of our actual audience itself. So it's a really good idea to understand who our audience is so that we can make sure we set up our ads based on those profiles. We can also use data from our existing website to run ads. So this could be by downloading a list of all the email addresses that have purchased from us in the past or booked a session through us if we're a service business. And then we can upload that to our ads and say, find us people who look like this. Or we can also retarget people who have actually visited our website or potentially joined up to our email marketing list with another ad to remind them of our business, because we know brand recognition and that awareness is always an important thing to be able to get them to convert and to return as a customer. Compared to traditional advertising, social media ads are a much more affordable option. For those of us who have dabbled with TV, radio, newspapers, you'd be aware that these can be quite costly, whereas Instagram and Facebook ads, you might be able to start at $10, $15 per day, and you might run it for 2 to 3 weeks, which you're then going to be paying significantly less than what you would have paid for any of those traditional advertising means. The other bonus is that you actually then can stop it if it's not working. So if you see this isn't hitting the mark, we're not getting the results that we're after, you can turn that off. Whereas traditional advertising, it's out there until you actually pull it from market. And then even then, if you pull it early, a lot of the time you don't get a refund. It's just a sunken cost. Where as soon as we stop it, it stops the budget then and there, so we don't spend any more money. It also provides us real-time data results. So we can actually say that this ad achieved X, Y, and Z. Whereas our traditional advertising, a lot of the time we were basing it off our viewership for the entirety of that newspaper, the radio station, and the TV station. So it actually provides us data around what is that actual ad doing in the marketplace and who is it reaching, how many link clicks are we getting to it, and then what are they doing when they get to our website. One big thing to consider, though, is if you are doing social media ads, is to make sure that you have other methods of marketing in play from a digital perspective. So what I mean by this is that you need to be posting organically on your social channel. Maybe you have an email marketing campaign that has a similar nature out there, so that people are reinforced with that messaging, because it all just ties in together and actually helps reinforce what it is that we're trying to communicate to our customers. So just some examples of where social ads work well. If we're promoting a product launch or sale, if we're getting those signups through our email list like we talked about before, retargeting people who viewed your product page but maybe didn't purchase, so enticing them to come back. Promoting a lead magnet, so where we spoke about before, using these as a free guide or a discount code to actually get them to either sign up or to actually take action on our website. And then building awareness before an event or a market. A common question that was also asked tonight was, what's the difference between boosting versus sponsored posts? So boosting posts, this is where you take an existing organic post, so the one that you've already shared on your actual news feed, and you actually click boost and put money behind it to reach more people. So boosting posts is more ideal for increasing visibility or engagement on a specific post. So if you've got a key message that you want to tell, make sure all of your audience members see, or even a few more people that might be, maybe they know who your business is, but maybe they don't follow your page. So it's really a great way to make sure we get that message out there. It can also be great for helping us grow brand awareness of our actual business. So I would typically only use boosting posts if I was really promoting time-sensitive content, whether that be an important business update or maybe a sale or event that was happening within the next couple of days. Just some pros and cons around boosting. So I guess the benefit of boosting is that it's super quick and easy. You can do it from your phone. It's really good for beginners or busy businesses who just want to do something really quickly, particularly if you do have an event or a sale on and you just need to get the message out there fast. And it does allow you to choose some basic targeting, so that location, age, and interests, so that we can reach people who don't follow our page. But do be aware that boosting will typically always try and make sure that we reach people who do follow our page first, that relate to some of those basic targeting options. So then on the downside of boosting is that you are limited in those audience target options and those ad objectives. So you can really only focus on that reach, engagement, or clicks. And you don't have as much control as to where that ad goes and what it looks like on those different channels. So if you've uploaded that as a post to Facebook, it's then going to display that on the stories as well, rather than actually changing the design to actually suit the stories format. And often we find that you actually pay more as a cost per result when you boost posts, because they might not be optimized as much as they would be if they were a sponsored post. So to sum that up, I would basically say that boosting posts is good if you're wanting to promote something really quickly and get a message out there. But otherwise, I actually don't recommend businesses boost posts because it doesn't offer a really good return on investment for your actual advertising spend. If you were looking to really make sure that you put some money behind some ads and saw a return on investment, that might be through sales, the signups to your email newsletter, to get people to actually book into your actual service, I would actually recommend sponsored ad posts. So these are the posts that show up on your news feed that say sponsored. They're the ones that are most often not actually an existing post on your news feed. So they actually allow you to be a little bit more salesy and different to the general content that you're building for your community. And so they, as I say, are really ideal for converting those leads and getting people to actually take action. So in terms of the pros around this type of advertising is that we do get that advanced targeting, so we can use some of those retargeting options that I spoke about before with lookalike audiences or custom audiences to retarget people who have visited our website. We've got more objective choices. You can actually split test different creatives so you can see what your audience resonates best with through some A/B testing, and that can be through headlines, visuals, and different audiences, and then you can turn on or off the ones that aren't working. You also get better tracking and optimization tools that you can actually add to your website so you can learn more about if your ads are working or not. And as I say, they often have a better return on investment in the long term. The downside to this type of advertising is that it can be a little bit more complex than just boosting a post. So there is a little bit of time that needs to be spent learning how to actually do it. Once you do start to get the hang of it, it does become easier. And so you'll then start to find that you'll get better at it over time and it will become a faster process. But as I mentioned before, it can get a little bit complex if you don't have a plan. So you do need to have an idea about what it is that you're wanting that ad to achieve and to make sure that you can easily and effectively measure that so you know that you're getting that return on investment. So I think we're up to some of the last questions. So how do you engage a social media promoter / influencer? So some things to consider when you are thinking about that social media influencer is to make sure that you find the right fit for your business. So you need to look for someone whose audience matches your target market. Make sure that you check their engagement rate, not just their follower account. So see, are they getting active engagement? Are people commenting? Is she commenting or he commenting back to the people that are commenting on their page? Just seeing what that actual interaction looks like. And then when they do post content, can you understand what their values or that tone is that they're trying to, I guess, offer to their audience? And does that align with your brand? If you're feeling like it doesn't, then it's probably not the right fit for you. If you do find that they are the right fit, that's when we want to look at actually approaching them professionally and personally. So you can send a clear, polite message or email introducing yourself and your brand. Mention why you think they're a great fit and what you admire about their content. And then be specific about what you're proposing. So is it a collaboration? Is it a product review? Is it an event promotion? And then alongside that, be really clear with them on what's in it for them. So is it that they're getting payment, free products, affiliate commissions, or exclusive access? And then if you are wanting that ongoing promotion, is it better to actually consider creating an ambassador program with perks that maybe they can be the leader of for their audience? Probably the most important thing is when you do find that right influencer is to make sure you set clear expectations as to what you're expecting as an output. So define what type of content you'd like. So how many posts, stories, reels that you want them to create. Work out what the timeline looks like. What are those key messages that they would need to use, hashtags, and any legal disclosures that they need to have. So for example, influencers need to actually declare that it is an ad and that they is sponsored content. Though make sure we leave some room for their creative freedom because we know that they know what resonates best with their audience. So then they can then actually make sure that it aligns with their audience and feels natural and in conversation. I think the best thing to make sure, though, when you do have these clear expectations is to make sure it's either put into a contract or some form of legal binding document so that it's clear for both parties so that if anything was to go pear-shaped, you've got that to fall back on. Something that I find really helpful when I do work with any influencers is to actually provide them with any resources around product information, brand guidelines, images, or talking points so that they can have a read over that and then figure out why or how it might be best to actually bring in their own self and their personality and how they do their style of posts to actually make sure that they're giving that information across correctly. You can even share some previous successful posts for inspiration if you think it would be helpful. But if you want to kind of let them have their creative flair, sometimes it's best to leave that out. But it just gives them a better, I guess, understanding about the business and what it is that they're actually talking about. And then when they do actually post, it is super important as a business that we engage and support their content. So when they post about us, like, comment, and share their posts. Thank them publicly when they post, actually like going into the comment section, because it also encourages more engagement. And then keep communication open for feedback and future opportunities. So when you have kind of completed what you set out to do in the first instance, thank them, ask them how did they feel about the experience, and get their feedback and understanding as to whether or not they'd want to work with you again as a business, or maybe they felt like there was something you could do better as a business to improve the process. And most importantly, track and measure results. So you can do this by giving them different tracking links or promotion codes to see if you can measure impact that way. And then review that performance through that engagement on their post to see whether or not that met the expectation of what you were hoping it would achieve. So they are the end of the questions that we had submitted in our question box, Kelly.
Awesome. Thanks to Laura. It doesn't look like we've got any other questions. So that was really comprehensive. That was fantastic. And thank you for jumping in when I had my cup of tea disaster. Before we end, I might like to take just a few minutes and share my screen and just a few minutes and provide some examples of how the Business Tasmania service can assist you. Can you see my screen, Laura?
Yes, I can. Yep.
Great, thank you. So the Business Tasmania service within the Department of State Growth, we exist to help you to start your business and to help you run a business in any industry of any size. But typically, it's small businesses who we are helping most, because the small businesses make up about 97% of all businesses in Tasmania. So our service is free and confidential. You can actually come to us with anything at all business related, and our team will work out what the very best solution is to meet your needs. We provide connections across government. We run events and workshops like this face-to-face and online. And we'll be sending a short survey tomorrow, which we'd love you to complete so that we can understand what you thought of tonight's session. You have access to business advisors and digital mentors and a whole host of great information to help you to run your business through its life cycle. So a key offering, that you can access is the Tasmanian Business Advice Service. If you're thinking of starting a business, or if you have an Australian business number, which is younger than 12 months old, you can start off with 2 hours of free advice. Then once your Australian business number is clocked over to 12 months, you can access up to 5 hours of free advice each financial year. It's a very flexible model. You can actually go to the website or call the Business Tasmania team, and you can select whichever advisor you feel suits your needs. And we have a whole host of advisors throughout Tasmania. So in addition to accessing business advice, if you employ staff, we have a specialised service, Employer of Choice Assist, and they can help you with anything related to employee workplace relations issues, contracts for staff, awards, anything at all. They can help you improve your workplace culture. So this is a great service you can access through the Business Tasmania team as well. Sometimes you have a quick question about awards and workplace issues, and the Workplace Relations Helpline Service, again, is another offering that the Business Tasmania team can connect you with. So another example. So these are just a very small nutshell of examples, because the key is when you actually make contact and we have a conversation with you, we'll work out what it is that is on offer that is the very best thing at that time to help you grow and to help you move forward with your business. You might be thinking, well, how do I keep working on all the fabulous things Laura talked about today? The Australian Government team offer the Digital Solutions Program. So at low cost of $59, you can access 4 hours of coaching, and they also run workshops and webinars as well. So you can get in contact with Business Tas and we can connect you with the Digital Solutions team as well. I'd just quickly like to point out the homepage of our website. You can see, subscribing to our newsletter in the middle there. It's a great way of staying in touch when there are new grant programs announced or important information for Tassie businesses. So I'd encourage you to stay in touch, or follow us on Facebook if you prefer. But certainly the newsletter is a very trusted source of reliable information. The other last thing I'll point out here is the funding and support box you'll see there in the middle. We work really hard to keep our ear to the ground to make sure that we're on top of all funding opportunities that exist for you at all levels of government. So you can actually go there and the information is freely available. But what a lot of people prefer to do is actually call the Business Tasmania team and say, look, hi Josh, I'm running a cafe. I've been in business 3 years. I want a new coffee machine. Is there anything I can apply for to help me out to get that piece of equipment? So getting in touch and having a chat allows us to make sure that you're accessing the support that's available. So we're that front door for you to access a whole host of government support. So thank you very much again, and appreciate to Laura's fantastic presentation on social media. It was very comprehensive. Our recording will be available on the Business Tasmania YouTube channel by the start of next week. So you can go back and have a look, and we'll email the slides to everyone who attended tonight. So thank you very much. I appreciate everyone's time. I hope that you join us at another event, face-to-face or online. So thank you again. Thank you.